Speaking of lessons, uh, who wants to start for in our recap of the Lovecraft finale? Um, we kind of hopped on early, um, in terms of like our excitement and championing the show. Saw it through, and I don't know how y'all watched the finale. I know how I did. Phone off, computer. I didn't want to talk to nobody. And
I was glued.
while I had questions, at no point was there any incentive to want to throw the whole show out. So I ask you, gentlemen, um, what the hell? How'd you feel? And then how'd you feel? And then, mm, damn, how'd you feel? And then, no. Start with how you felt first. Let's do that. I don't even know if we can get there without having that discussion first of how you felt.
Well, the beauty of Lovecraft, I can say, especially as the storyline grew, like I would say from the first episode, and then as it grew, maybe from like the seventh through the 10th, um, you kind of feel like you're gravitating towards it, and that's a hard way to write, and even like pull off effectively, with like the acting as well. Like everything would have to come in line. I mean, the directing as well. Like, but everything would have to come in line for you to have a gravitational pull,
Hmm.
to the characters and to what the characters are going through, and feeling as if it's talking to like your soul in a way. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of how I watched the show. Um, as it grew and as it got further along, I found myself moving closer and closer to the television. Um, so I have to give them their props on that part. But that's kind of how I watched the last episode, in awe of like what was about to take place or whatever. A good amount of it I could see, um, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
For me, I didn't know anybody wanted to throw the show like away. Like to me, the coldest part is if it is one season, it hurts me because, and that's just the selfish side of me because I want more. But then at the same time, if it is one season, I understand and I get it. And even though I know the whole show, they were telling us he was going to die at the end, still hurt. Like there was no less pain. I was actually really sad about that. And just the way the dad reacted to it, because he was for sure thinking there was a way that his son was going to live. And then the letter that he wrote to his son, I mean, the letter that he wrote to his dad, I was like, oh, yeah, that's how it, like I said, it was great. To me, it was still great writing. Like,
And you know me, but I love when you put time into anything, bro. So like, if you throw a time spectrum in the middle of some shit, like I really enjoy, uh, the mom being able to go and get in touch with reality, like different realities, where like how she was moving in this particular, uh, time spectrum was with a chest out, and like she moved like with a purpose throughout it, knowing that, this is only like one form of how time rolls. Like it's continuous, and it's always something else to. There's always a way to like problem solve something, and that's kind of how I look at time. Period. It's just like there's always a way to solve whatever problem you are dealing with. Only time you can't solve it is when you stop breathing. In my thought process, like, so that's kind of how like I looked at all of that too, like is how it's like how she was dealing with her daughter and like picking her back up, and you see like how once she introduced it to her, she went off. You know what I mean? Like, so it was interesting to be able to teach that to, somebody young, at the time that they needed it most before they can get into like that whole lull of thinking that this world is over while you're still breathing. You know what I mean? Like that was interesting to me too. So I think there was a bunch of takeaways. A lot of stuff that they were getting across, different storylines on top of like the main storyline that was taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, that's damn. So same, similar for me. Um, I was ultimately too though fascinated by like some of the choices. They This just bold. Like what empowers you as a storyteller eventually to lean on some of those choices and decisions, especially when the stakes are that high. And how do you combat that? Right. So to me, it felt like they did a really good job of just like leaning on their square and going, no, this is what we're gonna do, and this is why we're gonna do it. Am I breaking up?
I good.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. Like some of those scenes and some of those shots, but then if I'm trying to see and really understand some of the critiques, I can also get why why people are confused. Like it require again, it's requiring a level of patience as a storyteller that I don't think we've asked or we've had the courage to ask in a really, really long time. Um, in terms of so much offering so much and not shortchanging you as a means to play on this current state of how we share and tell stories. Like normally it's like, all right, well, forget it. We'll compromise the entire story as a means just to get everything in, whatever that looks like, and lean on your ability to sort of assume or oh no, I gotta turn this shit off. Um, lean on your ability to assume and sort of speculate, right? And just it was dope that the show kind of removed that whole hemisphere of speculation until this last episode, and then it's like, all right, now you can speculate, but it's gonna come at a supreme price. I don't know. I was ultimately happy with that though. Any wild suggestions for or any wild sort of hot takes for what you think season two might bring, or if there will be a season two?
Uh, yeah. I mean, I think season two would be more inclined to go down the route of like the Letty raising the child. I get that part.
Mm.
But and then also how much the mom and daughter can do with this, like being in all these different places at once. That'll be interesting. Like
Mm.
I think they'll open that up a lot. Um, and then also how, like, what other spells now that they have, now that Letty is like a beast at this, at getting like her growth and learning uh the book, I think is going to be a huge point. Because I think she, in a way quicker than even Atticus, as somebody that was attached to. I think he was too close, with too much turmoil built up to that point for him to actually let go until the very end. Um, with dealing with his pops and stuff like that, like there was a lot of things that was distracting him. As Letty being more of a purebred that, um, when she fucks up, she fucks up. Like, and so that kind of like makes her growth be a little bit quicker, especially. So I think that's probably something they'll touch on if they do a season two. I think that's something they'll touch on. It's just hard getting great at the damn book of spells.
Yeah, I think that it's most. I feel like they should follow the daughter a lot and just her because it seemed like she like now that she's figured out shit, she's on a whole new path now, just with her understanding of life. And now that her mom taught her how this time is, that they could go, they could do so much with her since she's young, and they could just play on that with experiencing different lives. And even if she wanted to go all the way back to like when she was born or something like that, it's just now it's like a free for all in a way with so much shit they can do.
Yeah, the daughter has a potential to be very dangerous,
Yeah,
given what she's experienced to this point. Uh, and that's kind of like it kind of leads into a topic that I had on here. Um, but that topic was the problem with introducing racial issues to people too early.
Mm.
Um, the like allowing a kid to be a kid is super important. And us as adults tend to put them into the mix of racial issues at a way earlier than they need to. Like I think about back when the protests were happening over the summer, and just seeing the imagery of the young the little girl that was like had all this passion while marching.
Mm.
And I was thinking of it, and I was like, geez, like she's utilizing her own individual passion for something that she doesn't fully understand yet. So
mm,
like somebody instilled in her a level of adult
Instilled or projected?
projected a level of racial issues in her that she would even feel that at this age. Whether I don't know if she's seen to this point, so she could have seen something that was damaging already, but the level of emotion that she was projecting, that she was putting together in that moment, really threw me off. Like everybody else is like in awe and bigging it up that she's out there protesting like that. But I'm thinking like, well, that's a little ass girl, bro. Like, why is she in the mix like this? And that's kind of what I think about with the daughter being on time travel. But before then, her going through the whole thing with the cops and them spitting on her, and then creating that the two twins that was following her and shit like that, and then her changing, and then the arm dying, arm staying dead or whatever, and then having to switch that out to the robotic thing. So I'm thinking all of that eventually can twist up the brain, like the way that she did the white lady, even though it's like all right, this is white people have been doing this to us for such and such amount of time, so it shouldn't, mean anything to you that she does something like that back to them. I think a little bit more beyond that is that to this point, how do you stop that? Like if you have the ultimate power, how do you dial it back if you have, if your pull and your draw is a little further along. So I think that she might be thinking about doing some wild shit that good luck trying to stop her at this point.
Yeah, and so not and I don't want to. The word critique doesn't sound, it doesn't do it full service. I'm thinking of it more as in terms of like, because I had something similar too. G checks, balances, emotions. It's supposed to be a whole checks and balances system, but how you can't really do checks and balances if we negate the information and go straight to emotion. And the facts are, the facts are just like shit's sick, and it's like let's match said sickness. Let's one up it. Let's show imagery. I guess with that character, and to your point, she Dee's existence, like it all happened fast too, where she loses Emmett to something catastrophic. She loses her dad. Like all these things happen fairly close, and then potentially loses her mother, and then has an encounter with the cops, and then then inherits these demons that are following her around and torturing her. So it's all some life changing shit, and sort of shapes her. Um, what if a few of those things go different? Is her outlook, does she make the decision to kill Christina at the end? Like, if she doesn't lose her dad, if she doesn't lose Emmett, like maybe she lifts those rocks up instead of killing. You know what I'm saying? I just think about like shit like that in terms of when you talk about just passing down. Are you passing down fight and like the passion? For whatever reason, I feel like that's a completely different thing than passing down uncontrollable, non-solution based uh, fear and emotion. Calculated passion and fire. I'm here for. Um, but that also might be some mad wishful thinking on my part. I'm open to that too. But I also have seen what reserve and ability to process and sort of have some agility and maneuver through, which is what the show was sort of leaning upon, where we're starting to come a lot more solution based and a lot less emotional than it started out as. Watch the evolution of Atticus's character and his affinity and respect for his father ultimately, for both his potential dads, whether it be um, uh, George
George.
or what was his pop's name? Montrose, excuse me, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just watching those happen in real time, especially when they're with such polarizing character traits that we see today. You know, where it is something as polarizing as sexual identity that ultimately don't have shit to do with us and shouldn't have any input on how we interact with um, another individual. It We'd be lying if we said that wasn't such an integral piece of society today, and we still haven't cracked that simple ass code, and it's so simple. Like humanity, rules of humanity is like let them rock, and vice versa. I expect the same terrain, but because what we don't, if we fear what we don't understand, there's this constant need to force and force projections. And it's a real tricky volatile time, and you can feel that shit in the air, bro. You can. And so that's why like checks and balances, or checks, balances, and emotions. Like we got to completely change, rewrite that, because all of this right now, the political jargon, the amount of marketing dollars that are spent for um, emotionally driven rhetoric. Um, it's not. There's no regard for whether that shit's written in any truth or nothing like that. It's just like, bro, we here we are, you know, and it communicates everything extremely, for me at least.
Completely. And I think each generation has like its own post to it too. And I think that in within that post there has to be a way to channel whatever energy is created in that particular generation. I
Hmm.
can't say that the way that it was in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. I can't say that each one should carry over the exact same type of energy, even though there was a certain level of disdain and horror, really, that was presented to a particular group of people. I think as we've gotten further along, there's a need to know a lot about history, but then there's also a need to know a lot about what future we are expecting for us all. And with that being the case, it's going to be a duality thing where
Hmm.
uh, you have to keep a hand on the pulse of the past, and you have to be able to navigate and channel a certain level of energy going towards the future. Because if we were to use the exact same energy that was used against us before, then best believe the
Expect the same
level.
results.
Yeah, but also best believe, understand that the people that you're dealing with, if we used us as African Americans, if you use the energy that was given to you from the past, like people put this, like directed this towards you and tried to kill you off and everything like that, we're talking about years of issues and trauma. If we were to use that in the same capacity that it was used on us, this whole thing is over with. You know
Over.
what I mean? Like
Over.
it's too much. It's too much built up, pinned up energy
Yeah.
that if we were to just use that all at one good time, this whole thing blows the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be the same. It's not gonna be an eye for an eye type of deal. It's gonna
Not
be
at all.
literally this entire thing is over because that we are not gonna know how to stop. And that tends to happen a lot within our culture that we don't know when the end is supposed to be until until it's too late. You know what I mean? So I think that's something.
Damn, G. Um, hmm.
But I fuck with the energy. I never say I don't fuck with the energy. I definitely do that. But I think there's just, like you said, calculated ways of going about it where you don't have to present your entire ball of energy at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's wasteful. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that over time we've been able to put together such a large just section of energy. I think that you can kind of unravel that as you go and use it as you please in
Yeah.
order to be able to pass it down to more generations that can take it and run with it. You know, I think that's a better way to do it than just blow it all up at once.
Well, how, so
It's not a Kamehameha, you know. For people that watch Dragon Ball Z, it's not a Kamehameha type of deal, bro. Kamehameha has been blew up the earth, nigga, plenty of times.